The Board of Selectmen meeting this evening is Tuesday, June 28th, 2022. And this evening, we are going to have Jack Dunn, our Eagle Scout candidate, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
May all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jack. Nicely done. In the interest of time, we're going to, if you don't mind, and you can stay there, it won't take that long. I'm going to ask Mrs. Rain to read our public announcements, and then we're going to cut over to you, okay?
Okay.
The Hanson Town Clerk's office will be opening at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, June 29th, and will be closed Tuesday, July 5th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Please plan accordingly. We are looking for citizens at large to become members of the newly revitalized Bylaw Review Committee, Capital Improvement Committee, and Recreation Commission. Volunteer applications may be found at the town website, www.hanson-ma.gov, or by calling the Selectmen's office at 781-293-2131. Upcoming meetings: Select Board, July 19th, 2022, and Select Board, July 26th, 2022.
Okay,
And,
great.
oh, no, one more.
Oh.
One more. The Hanson Public Library's 9th Annual Trivia Night, sponsored by the Hanson Public Library Foundation, will be held Tuesday, July 19th at Camp Kawani. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. and trivia will begin at 7:30 p.m. Trivia teams can reserve a table for $120 up to 8 people. Individuals may register for $15 per person and will be seated at a table with other players. Popcorn and water are included in the entry fee, and there is a cash bar. Space is limited. Registration online through the library's calendar of events at hansonlibrary.org. Proceeds from the evening will provide exciting programs for all ages at the library.
Thank you. And bummer that it's on the same night.
know,
We have a
same night,
selectmen meeting,
that's what I
because we
thought.
could have gotten our team together, and I feel pretty good about our prospects of winning.
When do you want me to let you know I won't be here for the meeting?
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Rain. And with that, Jack, I'm going to turn it over to you to tell us about your proposed project, which is reading kiosks at Meeting House Lane.
Good evening, Select Board. My name is Jack Dunn, a Boy Scout currently with Troop 68 of Hanson. My plan is to build 2 little free libraries for the Hanson Housing Authority. I have already met with the Housing Authority and have received approval for my project from the Boy Scout Council. Building these libraries will give the residents of Meeting House Lane access to new information, for they can learn about new information and provide a source of entertainment for the residents of Meeting House Lane. A little free library is a library where people can grab a book to read and keep it if they want, or can return it, and then other people will donate books that they might find interesting. I recently did a fundraiser for my libraries at the Thomas Mill, and when I'm doing my project, an Eagle Scout of the town will be helping me. An experienced carpenter will be alongside, supervising and helping me. There will be 3 adults there at all times to help with the power tools, and there will be 2 scouts helping me also. Any questions?
I'll open it up to the board. Amazing project. Love that you're doing something at Meeting House Lane. Love that little free library idea. And you're right, people could be housebound, or they might not, and it's a wonderful idea.
Is it one of those little?
Yes.
Yeah. Any questions, or?
No, I agree. Seems like a great idea.
Yeah. Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to accept Mr. Dunn's
I move.
proposed project.
I
Okay,
move to accept.
okay.
Second. Oh,
After
go
you.
ahead, Joe.
We're so excited that we can't get over ourselves.
Yeah, it's almost like somebody coached you, Jack, on exactly to say. I did want to say, though, did we take the official vote?
No, we have a
a
motion
motion.
to
Okay.
move in a second. Yep.
Okay. Oh, I just wanted to mention that Jack already did his bottle and can drive and was prepared with the adults and his dad, John. But it was almost like everything was already done, and he had it all done and just waiting to come to see us, instead of sometimes we get it the other way
Yes,
around.
we do, sometimes.
So I really
yeah,
appreciate that, Jack.
There's
Thank you.
varying organizational abilities
Yeah.
at times,
Yeah.
so.
It's a great project, great
Yep.
place to do it.
We
Thank
love
you.
our Eagle
Honestly,
Scouts.
yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are fantastic.
Yep. Okay, so we have a motion on the table in a second, all in favor?
That's a no-brainer.
Okay, great. Thank you and good luck, and please
Thank
reach
you.
out to our office and let us know if you run into any issues or you've got any concerns, we're here to support you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well done.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Jack.
well done. Okay.
John, take care.
With that, we have preparation for October town meeting, and that might have been a little bit of an overstatement. I just kind of wanted to level set everybody on timelines, and in your packet, you'll see the 2022 to 2023 Board of Selectmen calendar. If you kind of skip down, we're going to open the special town meeting warrant on the 19th, so our next scheduled meeting. And then if then we've got various, by the 23rd of August, we'll have, Board of Selectmen proposed articles, as I mentioned at our prior meeting. If you guys have got something, some kind of burning thing that you really wanted to see addressed, bring it to the board and we'll see if we can get it on as a Board of Selectmen, article, if the majority of the board agrees. It's a great opportunity to effectuate change, so if there's, something you're passionate about or you'd like to see changed. It could be a bylaw change, it could be some little small change, but think about it. It's an opportunity to really make a difference. And then, one of the things that we want to really work on for this October town meeting is really enforcing the due date with all of the various, committees and boards and departments. We had some slippage of that, in our last, town meeting, in the May town meeting, and it just causes, Beth and our office, the town clerk's office, and legal counsel to have to scramble. We want to try to really avoid that, so, pardon the noise, but we are currently,
window open.
we are currently in a sauna, and we have got Charlie Baker, not our governor, but our building, person who is here, who is relieving us of that. So pardon the background noise. That's just an FYI of the, now, one of the things I think that's the most important of all of it is the preview, where we, as a board, get to talk, get to ask questions, we get to see how people are gonna present it, and see if there's anything that we can do to help support, people with those articles. Ed, did you have a question? No. Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to kind of alert everybody to what the timeline was that we're dealing with.
So is this, you mind if I ask a question?
No,
Couple of
no,
questions,
please.
actually.
Yeah.
So are these all dates that have been established, or are these dates that you and Lisa have come up with?
I'm taking a calendar that was already established, and we should review this at some point, because I believe we've jumped the track on a number of these.
Yeah.
And have not adhered to them, but,
So-
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if it makes sense just to kind of send these out to the various other stakeholders that are here, just to kind of get their approval on it, and then
It
it might
does.
even make sense to
Yes.
do like a formal vote to establish the calendar, so
It
that way we
does.
can hold ourselves accountable to it.
I like that idea, Mr. Weeks, I think it's a fabulous idea, and we can, put that on our agenda. The 19th is looking rather unwieldy, so perhaps we will look at it on the 26th, but I love where you're going with it. It is in the theme of inclusiveness, breaking down those communication barriers, and this is why Charlie is so amazing and practically not replaceable. Okay, so, that's great. With that, we have on the phone with us, Sprague Energy Electricity Supply Contract Presentation and discussion to enter into contract for electricity supply contract. Lisa, can I cue it up to you, and then we'll turn it over to the folks on the phone?
Yes, so Sprague Energy is a company that we've been working with to join in with like a bulk purchasing type of group where we are actually saving money on gas. We're going with Sprague Energy for gas. And Bob Savery reached out to me regarding our electric purchasing. Now granted, we are joining in an aggregate group, but that's still a year to 2 years out. So we thought it would be a good idea, since energy costs are expected to skyrocket over the next few months, to have Sprague give us a presentation and see what they can do to help us save money on our electric bill.
Okay, great.
And that said, I'm going to turn it over to, Robert.
Good evening, folks. How you doing?
Good, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you, Lisa,
Yeah.
for setting this up. What I am curious about is how many people were on the last Zoom or Teams call that we had from our group there?
3 of us would have been on, Mr. Hickey, Mr. Weeks, and myself. We have 2 new board members.
Okay, so what I don't want to do is I don't want to lose anybody, unsure about what's going on. So if you could bear with me, what I'll do is I'll do a quick intro to who I am and what we do as Sprague. Is that okay?
That works.
Yes, I'm sorry, we have a lot of distraction in the room. I apologize.
That's okay, no problem at all. I'm here for you guys, so don't worry about it. Anyways, my name is Bob Savery. I work for Sprague Energy. Sprague Energy has been around here in New England, specifically headquartered out of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, since the late 1800s. I have not been around since the late 1800s, but I have been doing this for about 13 years now. Enjoy my job and help a lot of companies, from municipalities to mom and pop pizza shops, right up to portions of IBM. We take care of GE and, just a large portion of New England. And primarily what we've always done is we've primarily been a natural gas supplier. We do oil, we do all kinds of fossil fuels, and we sell them to everybody from municipalities to hospitals and all of that. Because we are so big, we've got 10,000 customers or so, we've developed such a great relationship with every electric supplier out there. And when I say every electric supplier, I do mean every legitimate electric supplier. There are a lot of them out there that are just fly-by-night companies that, I would not recommend you ever talk to. That being said, part of what we do, my title is I'm an energy portfolio manager. So my job is to go ahead and help my customers navigate what's coming down the road with regards to energy. And I don't know if any of you have seen what's going on, but or heard what's going on in the energy market. But I'm going to speak a little bit today to the gas and electric, because those are the 2 places where I work. Although Sprague takes care of many facets of fossil fuels and that type of thing, I take care of gas and natural gas and electricity. That being said, we are in a really precarious situation right now in New England with regards to natural gas and electricity costs. If you haven't heard or you haven't seen pricing already, it's going to get really bad real soon. And let me go ahead and tell you just real quickly with regards to, well, do you all have the paper that I sent out to Lisa? Were you able to print that, Lisa?
Yes, we all have that. Yep.
Okay, so let's go ahead and just look at the first section there, natural gas. So your current rate is 81 cents per therm. That is with the utility. The utility rate right now is 81 cents. The contracted rate that you guys signed for, that Lisa signed for back in January, was 70.8 cents, or 0.70 cents, 8 cents, which is a great savings. So that's excellent. The current contract expires in April of '24. So on the gas side, you're very well protected right now. You're all set until April of '24. Now we'll have to talk. I would recommend that we, on that end of things, we're proactive rather than reactive. So, probably 6 or 8 months in advance, prior to that date, we should talk again. And that way, you are being proactive with regards to the current energy market at that point. The next bullet point there, great timing on signing that current contract back in January. The NYMEX, in case you're not familiar, the NYMEX is where natural gas is traded traditionally. Back in January 2022, when you signed that last contract, the NYMEX was trading at $5.44 per unit. 2 weeks ago, that same NYMEX was trading at $9.30. And you can, I can't see you folks, but I'm sure you're saying, wow, that's a big jump. It's almost double. This week, it's taken a temporary setback to about $6.30 due to a lot of influences that people don't hear about. One of them being there was an explosion down at a Freeport, down in the Gulf. One of the CNG terminals exploded. And consequently, all the gas, the natural gas that was supposed to be condensed and turned into liquid natural gas was not condensed. It was actually just added back into the pipeline, which gave us a temporary boost. So it allowed natural gas to go ahead and take a step back. We do not expect that it's going to stay there. We do fully expect that it's going to go ahead and continue its upward climb, especially the further into the colder weather we get again. Although we're just now coming into summer, we look into the future, if you will. As of right now, just to give you an idea, the town of Hanson has saved just about $3,200 on the natural gas being in the contract they're in. But that $3,200 savings is going to grow tremendously over this next coming winter. So that's just a little snapshot about how your natural gas contract is doing, and that's going to lead me down into that next section. And before I go ahead and mention anything in the electric section, I do want to point out, if anybody there wants to jump in at any point, has a question, a comment, or concern, whatever it is, please feel free to go ahead and ask. I'll do my best to answer it. If I don't have the answer, I'll go ahead and get that answer for you, okay? With regards to electricity, the current utility rate is 10.37 cents. Your current contracted rate is good until December of 22, and it's 9.6 is your current rate. So again, you're saving money over what the utility is at, which is excellent. The utility, National Grid, has already announced what their new rate is going to be starting in August. So August, September, October, they're going to be at 21.1 cents per kilowatt hour. That is a huge jump. That is, literally double. And that's traditionally, August, September, October are traditionally some of the least expensive months of a year for electricity costs. That tells us that we are prepared to go into a winter, and there's going to be some crazy, crazy rates. As an example, Eversource, last winter, when the NYMEX was trading in that $5.50 range, Eversource, Massachusetts, which is just down the road from you, they hit 31 cents per kilowatt hour. And that was when the NYMEX was only hit $5.50. So you can imagine if the NYMEX hits $9.30 again, where those prices could go. In fact, just one more, just a little bit of info. Utilities in New England follow one another because they're all subject to the same market conditions. So Eversource New Hampshire has already announced that their large accounts in New Hampshire come January will pay 48 cents per kilowatt hour. And yes, I hope you did hear that, 48 cents. Their current rate is about 12 cents. So that just shows you what's happening in the future and why you want to go ahead and get things under control now. Just then go down to that next section, today's available rates. I can lock you in. I can do 12, 24, 36, I can go 48, I can go 60. We can go way, way out if we want to. My recommendation is all of my customers right now are taking 36 months. 36 months allows you to go ahead and get through this storm, this energy storm, if you will, relatively unscathed, if you will. But anyways, you'll see the short term is the most dangerous term. That's the most volatile term right now. That's at 17.9 cents is the lock-in rate. 24 months is 16.2, 36 months is 15.3. Again, that's the one I recommend. Now, just to give you an idea of how fast this market is moving, back in January when I talked to you about your natural gas, we could have done your electric at that point, but at that point, you were exploring that aggregation, so we kind of held off on it. But back in January, the 36 month would have been 12.49 cents per kilowatt hour, as opposed to right now, the 15.3. So you see how quickly that's ramped up. And as we look into the future, as a publicly traded company, as we look into the future, there's nothing on the horizon that tells us that the market's gonna go ahead and take a dip anytime soon. In fact, everything, it's a perfect storm, really, because, of what's going on in Russia, the explosion down in Freeport, that's gonna turn back around, and that natural gas that's filling up the pipelines right now will eventually go ahead and be shipped over to Europe. So there's a lot of market conditions that are setting themselves up for very, very, very dangerous pricing. And that's why I'm recommending that, you go ahead and, although I don't blame you for looking into the aggregation, because the aggregation isn't gonna happen for another year and a half or 2 years, it leaves you extremely vulnerable where the town could go ahead and pay double, triple, potentially quadruple, the supply rates that they're paying right now. That being said, I'll go ahead and open it up for any questions that you might have. I hope I was able to explain a little bit to you.
Okay, we have a question from Mrs. Rain.
Because I'm new, I don't know, this is electricity that the town buildings are gonna be using, of gas that the town buildings are using, it's just for the municipal?
Yes.
Okay. all right.
So there's two things going on. The contract that you have in place right now is for all the it's for the municipal buildings. The aggregation that you're looking into, I believe what that aggregation will do is it will come up with a price, and it will offer that price to all of the town members. So it can be residential, it doesn't matter. But at this point, what we're discussing is all of the town buildings.
Thank you.
Yep, Mr. Heel.
On the electricity, you mentioned the current contract expiration date is December 2022. So if we were to do one of these 1, 2, or 3 months contracts, that would also renew in December? Or would
Okay,
we
so-
start earlier?
Yeah, so great question. Those are actually 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 3 year agreements. You mentioned months. I just want to make sure that's clear. You don't want to sign a 1, 2, or 3 month contract, because that would put you absolutely in the middle of winter, which would be devastating. So what happens with these contracts is your current contract expires in December. So your new contract, let's say you chose the 36 month and you decided to move in that direction, your current rate of 9.6 would stay in effect until December. At the end of the current contract, that new one that you took advantage of today or tomorrow, whatever it may be, would automatically start up again. So it would start January 23.
Any other questions from the board? Nope. So at this point, are we looking for a motion, Lisa, for you to enter into a contract with Sprague Electric, and based on the recommendation of the 36 months?
Yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, great. All in favor? Okay, great. All right, well, thank you. That was very informative and extremely depressing, but,
Listen, if you don't mind, I'll say one more thing, and that is this. Although Sprague Energy and I, we are, by law, we can only take care of, commercial and municipalities. We can't take care of residential folks. I do make myself available. If this is coming down the pipe, it is going to hit residential people as well, and that's very scary. Thankfully, the supply portion, which we're talking about, is usually about 50% of your bill, so that will increase. But if you want to, I do make myself available to all of you on the board. If you want me to go ahead and look at your particular home, if you work with Lisa or me or whatever it is, you can send me your electric bill. I'll go ahead and do the background work for you, and I'll point you in the right direction, make sure that you're not signing up with some, one of those shady companies that you're gonna get, be protected yourself. I'll
okay.
just do that, I do that as a courtesy for you, okay?
I appreciate that, but, I do question whether we should be afforded a privilege that isn't afforded to the
The
rest
whole
of the
town.
citizens in town. So,
I-
although I appreciate the spirit in which you're offering that sincerely, I think there may be pitfalls for the unwary in that.
Absolutely, and just to finish off with that, there are options available. If you go to the Massachusetts PUC, you can actually go onto their website and you can look at all the town folk. They can look up alternative suppliers, electric suppliers, and it will come up with a list of suppliers that are available. It'll tell you what their rates are. The only thing I would recommend to the town folk, if you're gonna do that, is make sure that when you check off the boxes, that you check off a fixed rate, not a variable rate. That's the most important thing. And if you can go ahead and get one that doesn't have an early termination fee, that would be the other thing that I'm looking, that I would mention. So this is available, this type of thing is available to all of your residents as it is on the state site.
So, just for those of us who may not be hip and happening, PUC, Public Utilities Commission?
Yes, Public
Okay,
Utility
all right.
Commission.
So-
You can do a Google search and just look up alternative electric suppliers and then type in PUC in your Google search and it should come up with something. And again, I'll be happy to go ahead, maybe if you wanted to put something together for the town people or whatever it is, I'll put a little sheet together or something like that if you wanted to. They do it on their own. I wouldn't be able to represent them, but at least it helps them, kind of get out in front of this train that's coming down the
I
pipe
think
there.
I think we would appreciate that. If you don't mind putting together something that we could pop up on our website, I think that would be, amazing, because I think, this is really gonna hit a lot of people in the pocketbook and whatever we can do to try to help people. And I really sincerely appreciate you making that offer.
My pleasure, my pleasure. I appreciate you all taking your time tonight, for sure. Lisa, can I reach out to you tomorrow sometime to see if we can take care of this?
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm sorry, just when you thought you were off the hook, Mr. Hickey had a question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we talked a lot in January, and I guess my question is, and it's really just for kicks because we already voted. But in January, we went with 28 months, which was not on the paper that you had. I'm just
Yeah.
curious, for my own benefit, on an 18-month, contract.
What,
You know,
for electricity?
yes.
To kind of, to try to help them align, is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. That way, they would both be due in April of '24.
Yeah, so that is absolutely, that is an option to you. But, and I'll do whatever you choose as a board to do. My recommendation is that you don't do that. And the reason being is if you look at those, you look at the 12-month at 17.9, the 24-month at 16.2, if you did an 18-month, you'd be somewhere in the middle there. So you're probably looking at what, right about 17 cents, 17,
Yeah.
17.1.
Oh, that's what I had on my paper.
There you go. So, if you're comfortable with 17.1 and if you want to align those contracts, that's perfectly fine. I don't mind. But otherwise, that's what my job is. My job is to go ahead and continue to keep you folks up to date. So when your expiration dates are coming up, I'm going to reach out to Lisa and I'm going to say, hey, Lisa, it's coming up. Why don't we go ahead and get together again and talk about, some options that are available. If you want to line them up, that's fine. But otherwise, I don't think it makes any economic sense necessarily to, there's no benefit to it. In fact, it's going to cost you, almost 2 pennies more per kilowatt hour. And when you're talking 1 million kWh per year, I believe that's what you use. Let's see. Bear with me for 1 second, Town of Hanson. Yeah, you use, 1.2 million kWh annual. So if you take that, you take that 2 cents times 1200, it's $24,000 difference.
I mean, it was a good question, and I get
No,
where
great
Jim's
question.
coming from. I'm less concerned with the contracts being parallel than I am with the savings, so. Did anybody want?
And please don't think I didn't mean in any way, shape, or form
No.
to belittle your question. It was a great question.
No, and it is a good question, because it's ideal to have
Yes.
things, happening at the same time. Any further questions, for Sprague? Energy. All right, well, as usual, you've been very informative, and we deeply appreciate you, helping us through these uncharted waters, and, look forward to you, producing that piece, in consultation with Lisa, that we can pop up on the website.
Very good. Thank you so much, folks. Have a good night.
All right, you too, take care. All right, we're gonna jumble our agenda around a bit, I've noticed that Mr. Clemens is here, and although he is, a soul of, great patience, I thought perhaps he might want us to, discuss his, disclosure, and then we will, also, we've got, on old business, we've got an update on the strategic plan, and rather than have Ms. Donner, who's on the phone with us, sit through the remainder of our meeting, we'll take her out of order too. So with that, in your packet, you all should have a disclosure from Mr. Clemens, and just to level set everybody, historically, it was not always the practice of this board, to have, to receive disclosures and to discuss them in an open meeting, which to me always seemed contrary to the very principle of disclosing things, particularly if you're an appointing authority. So Mr. Clemens has filled out what I think is a relatively self-explanatory disclosure. Mr. Clemens, did you want to say anything to us about it, or?
No, I simply want to understand what the process is. I understand the principle of how you would do it. I've taken the ethics training, this and that. But I don't know that this is a typical situation. I don't know that the situation I'm in represents any sort of financial situation. But as an abutter to a potential project when this, we can see coming, I just thought I'd try to get out ahead of it, whether I should leave the room when Conservation discusses anything, should that come up in the future, or not. And
So we
as simple
can't,
as that.
yeah, and so I appreciate you doing the disclosure. We can't opine on what you should be doing, but you could call the attorney of the day as far as that's concerned, call state ethics the attorney of the day. They usually will tell you right on the spot and then very quickly give you a written opinion shortly thereafter, telling you what you can do. For the purposes of this board, I think the primary thing, the lens that we're looking through is primarily, is there something you've disclosed here that would give us pause for you being an appointed, in an appointed position that this board has appointed? And I think inasmuch as you've chosen to disclose that, do you want to just give a brief summary? I feel like I'm playing cloak and dagger here, and that's not my intention.
Sure. Whenever a project of pretty much any size is proposed to a town board, and I'll just use Conservation as the example, abutters are notified, a certified mail and so on, and a project may happen in the not too distant future off of High Street. And one of the abutters to the property that's being looked at or that's being under discussion is the First Congregational Church. And not only am I a member there, but I'm a moderator in the business meeting at which members decide what to do or not do and everything else like that. I chair those meetings. So it might be like a little bit larger role in how that particular abutter, the church, would potentially respond or comment on, not that there could be any particular action, but just its role as of being an abutter and commenting at a public forum. Who knows what the discussions might lead to. And I don't know that I'm particularly concerned, but I would be concerned about any appearances and didn't want it to get further down the road before I check. I certainly can and will call the State Ethics Board. Wasn't sure what route the disclosure would take within the town hall. Having it at your desk is fine with me. I think that, again, the concern is that you hope there isn't a concern, but I would just like to make sure of that.
Well, I think obviously you're on the right path by disclosing, so that's awesome. And being aware, right, that's like half the battle. And then the execution, I think if you call the state and they say, you know what, out of an abundance of caution, just recuse yourself every time a project that abuts this comes up, which is probably what they'll say. But and just circle back and let us know what you get for an opinion. Does anybody here have any questions or concerns for Mr. Clemens? No. We thank you sincerely for disclosing, doing the right thing, And we look forward to hearing what you hear back.
Happy to do it, and look forward to some of the other items on the agenda too.
Okay, well, you know,
Just as a listener.
okay, some people think it's like watching paint dry, but we've got 3 people who are engaged, and we'll take what we can get. Okay, great. Okay,
I've emailed you the contact information for the ethics commission.
thank you, Ms. Green. All right, with that, Ms. Donna, are you able to hear us?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Here,
we're
I'll
getting
turn on
some
my
weird
video.
message that our virus protection has expired. I don't know whose virus protection, and that does seem ominous, but, I guess we'll just move on. So, for, those of you who, may be new and even just maybe don't remember, town meeting voted for us to fund a strategic plan, because as unbelievable as it might seem, the town of Hanson has actually never had a strategic plan, which would be a vision, if you would, that is put together by collecting the thoughts of various department heads, stakeholders, of course, all of us, and gives us at a point in time what we think the priorities for the town should be. And the importance of that is we're not flipping and flopping on our objectives in terms of where our money's going to be spent, where our resources are going to be spent. We have a vision. Of course, this is a living, moving object, and what might be a priority this year may not be a priority next year. It needs to constantly be nursed and refreshed, and we need to take a look at it. But we were fortunate enough to get town meeting to fund it, and then Ms. Green had worked with Ms. Donner. Whitman went through a similar exercise as many other towns have, and really enjoyed working with Ms. Donner and felt that she had really put together a great product. And so we have engaged Ms. Donner to help us through this. Lisa, was there anything else you wanted to add to this before I turn it over to Ann?
No, she's going to give us an update of where she is with the interviews and where she is with her schedule.
Okay, so Ann, with that, if I may
Yeah,
be
sure.
informal and call you Ann,
Yeah.
with that, I will turn it over to you, and I introduce you to the board. We have 2 board members who may have more questions than some of the folks that, you know, were part of putting that on the town meeting warrant, but we'll see. So we'd love to hear where you're at and what the next steps are and timelines and all that good stuff.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thanks for inviting me this evening, and that was a wonderful introduction of what the hopes are for the strategic plan and what a strategic plan should be. And if you might indulge me for just like a couple of minutes, I put together just a short presentation for those who are watching to understand like what a strategic planning process looks like for the town of Hanson, if that's okay.
That'll be great. Thanks, Ann.
Okay, all right, so. Share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
No.
We can see you, but we're not seeing any shared material.
Oh, okay, dear, okay. Well, I will then quickly just talk to what I put together, and I'll send you what I have. So just a little bit about me, just so you know who you're working with. I have been a management consultant since 2004. I come from a diverse background, including working for the public sector, and I have a particular interest in strategic planning, program design, and facilitation of public processes. That's my dog who's walking in the background. I have worked with public, private, and nonprofit organizations, and some of the areas of interest for me are economic development, transportation infrastructure, public planning, and workforce development. And as far as working with the public sector on similar initiatives, I've worked with Mass Development, the City of Brockton on a strategic plan, and the town of Whitman, as Lisa mentioned. And so I really particularly enjoy this kind of public sector work. So the question that a lot of people have is like, what is strategic planning? And for a lot of folks, they might have had a bad experience with it. Because really the concern is that a lot of time goes into preparing a document and effort, and then we forget about it, and we think, well, we never refer to it. It's not actually as useful tool. And so that's one of the reasons I'm particularly interested in strategic planning, because I don't see it that way, and it shouldn't be that way. So really what a strategic plan is, and I like to call it a strategic work plan, is an organizational management activity that's used to focus energy and resources, set priorities, strengthen operations of an organization, and really, most importantly, provide agreement around what we hope to achieve and what the intended outcomes are, right? So that there's an alignment of all involved on what we're working toward. And it's also, it's an opportunity to have, to produce fundamental decisions, and then identify very specific actions that we're going to take to make those things happen. And clarity about why we're doing it, and who we're serving, and when it happens. Okay, so it's very important that it's it's time-based. I think a very important part of it is that it articulates where an organization is going, and how we know if we're successful in doing it. Because I ask a lot of people, it's like, well, what does success look like? What do you hope to achieve? Because it's really hard to understand what you can't measure. There's plan elements, and I like to say, because it's terminology that I use, like all strategic planning or strategic work plan activities include, there's data. We look at data because we need to have a basis of which we're planning, just a point in time. It has, we talk about outcome measures, like what are we trying to achieve? What is the progress to date? Who are the stakeholders involved? Who do we need to talk to? Who are the participants? Who are and in this case, it's the citizens, so that's who we're serving. But everyone is a party to creating this, creating our sort of goals of what we want to achieve. And that comes back to the importance of it being participatory and transparent. There's a time frame, and in this case, we're talking about a 5-year strategic plan. And then it's so important that the form fits the organization needs. And I think that a result is not necessarily a long tome of a narrative document, but it's something that everyone can understand very clearly and use it to sort of guide the work that we're all involved in. And then the other piece of it is that it needs to be communicated. And that's also the format needs to be something that someone can come to the website of the town and look at it and very simply understand these are our priorities over the next 5 years. So I wanted to, and what I'll send to you in the deck is that an example would be that all strategic plans, or most strategic plans, identify those, we'll call them like the strategic objectives, or I like to call them the focus areas. The focus areas vary from like municipality to municipality because they change. They should change from every plan or shift. And so, for example, in the case of, it could be that the strategic priorities could include finance, public facilities and infrastructure, economic development, other citizen services, education, environmental priorities. So part of it, and others, but part of it is to identify and to focus on not 12 priorities, but maybe 5 priorities, 3 to 5 priorities over the next period of time. And that doesn't mean that other activities in the town like don't happen and government doesn't operate and services aren't delivered. It means that we're looking at very specifically at areas that we really want to make a difference within a specified period of time. The other outcome of it is that people, everyone, and understands what their role is in making those priorities happen. And because everyone does have a role, from the department heads to the select board, because to the commissions, that everybody, that there's in some way, shape, or form contributes to, if not all of those strategic priorities in some way, concrete way, to make sure that they happen and or in some tangential way. So I want to just respond to the question about timeline. So the plan and the work that we're involved in takes place over, I call them like 3 phases. The first phase is really developing the fact base. The fact base is understanding like what data we have, and that's reports, any kind of studies that were undertaken, any reference points. For example, the library just completed a strategic plan, and that's always a really helpful resource. The past master plan, it includes other reports. It can include grant applications. It also information about the demographics of the town. So all of that kind of data, and Lisa has been working with me closely to provide that. So last year's, the annual report is a very helpful tool for that. The other part of the data is really talking to people, and those are the stakeholders. So I have started interviews. I've interviewed most of the department heads so far, and I'm starting to talk to members of the select board. And I encourage you, and if not, we'll send out another link to schedule a time so I can talk to you and understand your perspective and what you think should be the priorities and get some of the insights, which are really valuable into informing the plan. And then there's also, and of course, Lisa. And one of the other pieces of this is actually conducting a citizen survey. And so once we get, I'm able to aggregate the themes of these conversations and the data that we have, we'll be able to say, well, what do we want to know? Like, what is really important to know from our citizens? So again, we're starting to identify like what's rising to the surface as far as key priorities over the next 5 years. So that we hope to do, that would be in August. So the data, once we assemble the data, we've got a really good snapshot of what the overarching like themes are, what some of the challenges are, and also what some of the opportunities we have over the next 5 years. And so the second part of it is really a town-wide strategic planning activity where, and it's where we really kind of dig into this. We do a lot of work, and we talk about, mission, vision, and we also identify like what the strategic priorities should be. And I want to say that going into that, there's always a lot of there often is trepidation about how productive a community meeting can happen, like multi-stakeholders, to achieve that in a day. And I'm proud to say that you'll be amazed. And I have, working with the partners that I've had the privilege of working with, it's, I'm pleased to say that we are able to do that every time we do it. We never leave the meeting with folks feeling frustrated and feeling we haven't accomplished something. So that's the second phase. We hope that that happens. We're anticipating that happening after Labor Day when people are back, because we'll have the best chance of getting a good turnout. And then the last piece of it is really trying to encapsulate what, all of that information, which includes who the stakeholders, the timeline, and our outcome measures, and develop a plan which is easy to understand, easy to track. It really in and of itself is a tracking tool for department heads, for the select board, for commissions and boards, to really look at this and understand at any given point in time how we're doing. And to what our chair said is that it also, it's okay to say the data and how we understand the plan. There's oftentimes there's course corrections. Life happens and plans change. And we design a plan that it assumes that. And so it really should be a tool, and my hope for this plan, and I know it will be, is a tool that is really dynamic. And is a helpful tool for the town and for the public. So that's my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
That's excellent, and I really appreciate that update. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Donner? Mr. Heel?
I just want to make sure we're including the right people. I've never seen a strategic plan, unfortunately, in the past, but, it's meant to be serving the citizens. That's what we're all here for, and I just want to make sure that we include input from the citizens as much as possible. It seems like you listed everybody else and then the citizens, yeah, we'll add them in at the end.
No, well, so, I mean, Ann, you can answer that, but so, she's talking to everybody, trying to get some sense of what the priorities are, but ultimately that citizen survey is gonna be the driver of what.
Okay.
And there's also gonna be the forum where we're all getting together, so it is very much not us dictating what the priorities are, because it's gonna fall on its face if that's what it is, right?
That's my
I mean, the
concern.
whole idea of this is we're representing the citizens in town, and yet we really don't have any way right now where we can get a litmus test of the, consistently get a litmus test, other than the anecdotal Shaw's conversations and the people that might
Right.
call you. What are the burning issues that people really want us to address? And that's really what we were all voted in to do, right?
Right,
But
definitely.
we're kind of flying a bit blind on that. So I agree that is a very important part, and I don't think you intended to diminish the importance of that.
Oh, no, absolutely. That's a key, really a central part of the plan. And just to respond to that there's, I've worked in like public planning, processes and activities, which we get really creative in how we engage people in this. So for example, a citizen survey, sometimes there's like, there's a link, and not everybody is comfortable, like, or, has a computer or is tech savvy. Other centers where people come together, whether it's the library or, senior events, community events, where there can be, sort of like a paper survey for people to sort of fill out. I've also worked with QR codes to engage younger people, and QR codes that are posted in windows of like stores where people can quickly, sort of complete a survey by just taking a picture of it with their phone. So we try to, we really work hard to, and I say we because it's a collective activity, to try to collect, I'll work with, your town administrator with that, but to really find ways of getting as many people to, weigh in on this as possible.
Does that help?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, I've been thrilled with the progress that you've made so far, and with your enthusiasm and your laser focus on keeping us on target, and all of that is much appreciated, and I'm sure we will test the bounds of your ability to keep us on task. But we appreciate it, and I guess we'll plan on perhaps having you back at some point in August?
Yeah, absolutely. Because at that point we'll have, we'll have a good sense of what we've learned through the survey, from the conversations and the data sets that I'm looking at.
All right, thank you so much, Ann, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Very exciting.
It is very exciting, for those of us who get jazzercised about stuff like that, which I do.
We love the strategic plans.
Yep,
Tis the
so,
season.
all right, then we've got several, recognitions, or two, of resignations. We have a resignation of Audrey Flanagan from the Recreation Commission, and I will entertain a motion to recognize her resignation.
So moved with regret.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. And we have a resignation from our executive assistant, Lucia Silvera, and I will recognize a motion to, for her resignation.
So moved with regret.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Regrettably.
Okay. And with that, one of the things that we've really been talking about with Lucia and with Lisa, and quite honestly, Joe and Jim know, with the prior town administrator and executive assistant, Mr. Stanbrook and Greer Getson, is the volume of work that the office does is leading to burnout, rapid burnout, from the staff that are in the select board's office. So I got thinking about why is that happening? Are we expecting too much? Are we not paying enough? Are we not prioritizing? You know, maybe it's a little bit of all of those things, but I did ask Ms. Green to take a look at the towns around us and see how they are staffing this office. And what are the jobs that are being required of this office in this current time that weren't necessarily required, say 5-10 years ago. You know, you've got all kinds of online liquor license permitting. I mean, the list goes on and on. I don't want to steal Lisa's thunder. I don't even know what her thunder is, but I know she's got some things to present. So, Lisa, I know you did look at other surrounding towns, what they have for staffing, and you had some ideas on that.
Yes, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board. So I looked at all the towns that basically neighbor and touch Hanson. And as far as population, all of these towns are, you know, are close to population. Yes, some might have 15, some have 10, some have 11, but we're all within that 10 to 15 range. All of those towns have 3 staff members in the select board's office, town administrator office. Abington has our town manager. They have 2 administrative assistants. One is the administrative assistant to the town manager in the Board of Selectmen. The other administrative assistant concentrates on media coordination and other activities. We have the town of Rockland. Rockland has a town administrator, an assistant town administrator, and an executive assistant. Then we have Pembroke. Pembroke has a town manager, an assistant town manager, and an executive assistant. We have the town of Easton. The town of Easton has town administrator, assistant town administrator, human resources coordinator, and executive assistant. Halifax, which as far as population, other than Plimpton, which has 3,000 people, Halifax would be our next lowest population, but they have their town administrator, they have a selectman assistant, they have a selectman secretary. Plimpton, they have a population of roughly 3,000 people. It's the only community around us that has only 2, town administrator and administrative assistant. The town of Freetown, interim town administrator, executive assistant, administrative assistant. East Bridgewater, town administrator, they have an assistant to the town administrator and the Board of Selectmen, and they have a principal clerk, which is similar to an administrative assistant position. Lakeville, town administrator, assistant to the town administrator, executive assistant to the select board, and town administrator. So as you see, we're the only community around, other than Plimpton, that has a population of 3,000 people, that have only 2 people in the select board office. And I have been talking about the amount of work that we do have, and what folks really, I'd like to really have them understand is, it's not shifting papers around. Our office requires reading, learning, writing, creating documents. For instance, this board, you appointed roughly 101 people to commissions, boards, and committees at last meeting. That triggered our office to generate 87 letters the next day and get those appointment letters mailed out so that all those folks could come in and get sworn in. We also, records requests. We are bombarded with records requests. And it's not just, hey, I need yesterday's payroll. It's a records request that's 2 to 3 pages long, and they're looking for minutes from January 1 to December 31. They're looking for all different things, again, that requires research, putting it together, redacting that's required, copying, and just a lot of looking and searching for these things. We're talking hours of work. We answer the phones. We, answer complaints, open meeting law complaints, all different complaints for whatever reasons. Private roads have been a big issue lately. And 2 people trying to do this work, it is extremely overwhelming. Lucy and I do the best we can. And then minutes. Minutes is not a job that takes minutes. It takes hours to generate meeting minutes. When our meetings are 2 to 3 hours, that means that's a 6 to 8 hour job generating those minutes, because they need to be accurate. They need to capture the discussion and the votes. That is not, and then how can you do that in an office where you're picking up the phone, where people are walking in looking for help, where, this, that, or what else also needs to be done? How can you fit 6 to 8 hours in an 8 hour day of just doing minutes, which needs concentration? We can't do it.
And I think, if you don't mind me kind of adding on a little bit, that's in addition to preparing the annual town report, which is quite a large task, to the 2 town meetings that, as you can see, we're talking about it starting in July for October. I mean, half of the year practically is spent talking and planning for town meeting. And then I think most importantly is all of the personnel issues, because you are chief cook and bottle wash for all of the personnel issues that happen, whether it's family medical leave, whether it's, performance, whatever it is, you're the one who is kind of the, person that's handling it. And I want to be clear that Lisa is not complaining. That's not why this is on the agenda. This is not why it's on the agenda. This was my observation saying, holy, this is a lot of work, and I've managed people for years, and when I look at the volume of the work, it's quite unwieldy. I do recognize you, Mr. Weeks, just, and it's a case where this board's got a lot to do, but we've got to have the support and the staff to help us get this done. So for instance, and Lucy, I don't think you'll mind me saying this, like Lucia said, like a lot of boards meet every other week or maybe even once a month. And so if we're meeting every week because we've got a lot to get through, that's a 6 to 8 hours of a week, each week, plus the time to prep up, for the meeting, because it's all the inserts and everything and coordinating the agenda and all that stuff. It's probably about 2 days worth of work for every meeting that we have. So, it's just concerning. Now, I've seen, people say things like, oh, you guys should ask for volunteers. We have volunteers. We have seniors who are working on reducing their tax burden by volunteering in the office. There's only so many things that you can give folks that are volunteers jobs to do, because some of it's privileged and confidential information. There's a lot of compliance concerns, and the stakes are very high. If we don't comply for a freedom of information, with a freedom of information request, or open meeting law violation, we get fined. We don't want to get into that situation, and thank God, I don't even know if this is actually fully wood, but we haven't gotten into that situation. And so I just want to be clear, this is not Lisa complaining, and on top of all of the stuff she just listed, this board's been pushing her to get grant money, to get the town-owned properties, onto the, sold and on the roll. Mr. Hickey's been championing that, since he got elected, and various other things that I'm probably not even doing it justice. Mr. Weeks.
No, I think you're doing a great justice. I think that one of the things is that I'd like to kind of point out, and it's on us to do this, is that, the previous board spent a lot of time advocating for not just another administrative assistant and/or assistant town administrator, but we were also talking about an HR person that we could bring in so we could take some of that burden off of you as well, and we should continue on with that. The only thing that constantly gets in the way is us kind of always putting out fires and kind of putting, things together last minute, whether it be special town meeting or annual town meeting, which would help fund those things, and it would give our, give our town enough time to find the money in the budgets, play with things enough, work it out with the finance committee, try to figure out how we can actually fund these things. But we're always kind of chasing our tails, trying to find out how to get these things done. So I think it's a perfect opportunity right now for us to sit back and really just kind of take it seriously and actually try to find
I
it.
agree. Honestly, if we're going to have things professionally run in this town, and I hear people say all the time, oh, this and that, I'm not even gonna insert all the comments, but, it's a wing and a prayer, it's this and that. You know what? We're gonna have a strategic plan, we need to have the staff we need to do to support us so we can do the job that we were all elected to do. It doesn't do anybody any good if we're half-baked staff and a bunch of well-intentioned volunteers, but we're volunteers,
We just
you
get,
know?
well, the thing is, we have to make the time to do it, I think that has to be a priority, because we can't run a town when no municipal government can run off of a revolving door of staff. Because you're always in a position of influx, you have other people taking up jobs that they don't have time to do enough as it is. Then the training, the onboarding, the offboarding.
Yes,
And then you can't run a town or a municipality off of volunteers, because there's no accountability there, there's no consistency there. They're by nature finite in their roles anyways, and that doesn't even include all the stuff that you talked about. So, I just think that the last board started off the idea of really kind of putting it out there, and then we have to take that seriously, build from what we did last year and really kind of put it into action, see if we can do it.
I agree. I'd very much like to hear from other people. Thoughts, Mr. Hickey?
Bob said it, with the natural gas. It was the three of us, Ed and Ian, you guys will catch up on some of this stuff, but, he said we were proactive instead of reactive. And that's why I agree with both of you that if we're gonna do this in July to get ready for October, this is what we do. And we spend July and August working out the details so that when it's presented at town meeting, there's an actual, a list or a job description, or between the three people, what it's gonna be. It would be great to have a grant writer, and we would save so much money. The problem is, it's $70,000 to hire a grant writer that we don't have to save a ton of money. So we have to come up with a plan. Ann going through her plan was great, and it's gonna, in stage. But it would be great to have a grant writer, but where are we gonna come up with the 70,000? Because it doesn't matter if we save 230,000 somewhere else. It's not 230,000 in our hand. And when Ed, and I'll bring this up at a later point, but, we've saved $3,200 so far on a plan that we designed, not him.
Right.
So this is what we need to do with that third person or anyone else that is gonna be hired.
And I honestly think there's another, situation, I hope you don't mind, Mrs. Rain, because I was gonna go to you next, but, there's another thing to think about. One of the things that, has consistently bothered me, because it's just fundamental to running a department, a company, whatever, is succession planning, right? If you are gonna staff so thinly that you don't have anybody, if something happens to Lisa, God forbid, or she decides she's gonna move on, you don't have anybody that can come in. You've got this constant onboarding, and it's exhausting for the town hall employees to constantly be having to, one more time with feeling, this is how we do town meeting, this is how we do, and they don't complain. God love them, they do not complain, and I'm not saying that. They're all supportive, they're all great. But one of the first things I know when I first became a select person, just because I'm coming from like from private business perspective, said to every one of the people that I met with, well, what's your succession plan? Like, when you retire, who's your second in command? Have you thought about that? Are you training somebody? You know, because unpredictable things can happen in life, and even predictable things. You're planning on retiring, then who are we grooming to be that next person? Because these things are not surprises. You know, we know 5, 10 years out that somebody's gonna retire. Well, why aren't we planning for that? And I feel the same way with this. Why aren't we planning? We know that we need to have that redundancy. We need to have HR, procurement, grant writing, you know, and I think, we've got an opportunity. So I agree, Mr. Weeks. Mrs. Rain, I'd love to hear what you think.
I just feel sorry that we're losing someone that I barely know, but I know she's been effective, and there is nobody in the wings to come and take her place. And
Yep.
it doesn't sound like that's a good plan in the long run. We need, it sounds like we need 2 people.
Yep.
You're gonna be replaced by 2 people, unfortunately.
That's the good news and the bad
The
news,
best news
Lucia.
would have been that we could have gotten a person to
Yes.
help you before you reached the point where you needed to walk.
That's the key
Yep.
right there.
Yep,
I agree with all of that. Every time I've gone into the office, both of these two are working
Yep.
as 3 people. I mean, the 2 people here are working their butt off. And last meeting of the week, meeting before, we talked about the, insurance, where Lisa did all the research
Yep.
to save
Yeah.
money on insurance. That's just, it's like,
It's a lot of
she's
work.
doing so much.
A lot of work.
And Lucia's doing, they're both doing so much.
And I'm learning something too, there isn't an HR person?
nope,
Nope.
Lisa
That's-
handles all of that stuff.
That sounds kinda tough.
It's tough
That's a
and,
lot, I
and
know what
frankly,
HR
it
is,
could
it's
be
a lot of
risky.
work.
It
Yes,
could be
it could be
risky.
very risky.
I'm sorry, Madam
No,
Chair.
no,
The
Phil,
the only
yeah.
other thing I wanted to add, and you, Joe, and we've been around. So, you know, and Ann and Ed, you're gonna, you know, you're gonna catch up. We have other departments in town that have plans for when that
Yes,
person
good,
leaves.
yes.
And I'll blame me. Why don't we have a plan, this office have a plan, when we have other departments that already have plans? So I agree with Joe. We gotta get working on this so that it doesn't happen again.
Okay, so what do we feel are the next steps? I think, obviously, it's feeling like a town meeting warrant. It's feeling like we need to have a conversation with our town accountant about affordability, sustainability. It feels like we need some documentation. Yes, you read that to us, but I think it would be nice if we had something, and I'm sorry to make more work for you by trying to, we're trying to take work away and help you, but I'm making more work, but hopefully it's short-term pain, long-term gain. Put together something compelling that kind of talks about that. And I think to Mr. Hickey's point, or I don't know, everybody made such great points, I don't even know who to attribute it to, but, the breaking down of the jobs of who's gonna be doing what, so we've got clarity, so we all have clarity, and we can advocate for what this office needs. Anything else people think we need to add to that list of,
I think it's more than enough for now.
Okay.
Sounds like
It's
we
just-
need a committee.
I just
yeah,
think that
oh
we
God,
really have to.
don't mention that word, it's like,
Just won't-
Not
Not gonna be a liaison for that one.
Okay. Okay, well, I hope you guys feel the support. It doesn't do anything tangible right now, but I think we're recognizing what the issue is, and we are committed to trying to move forward in addressing it. So, I thank you for going through that painful exercise with us. Any other, there's really no need to take a vote, I just thought we should just discuss it. All right, with that, I had, I had whipped together a little electronic posting policy, based on, our conversation a couple meetings ago, where we had talked about improving communication, and this isn't the only, this isn't the only, change that we're gonna be making, but this, to me, seemed like relatively low-hanging fruit, something that we could implement, without a lot of pain, and yet it would effectuate some positive change and open up those lines of communication that we're all committed to doing. So hopefully, I had sent this around a couple weeks ago. Hopefully, people had an opportunity to read it. I did, pass this by, our town clerk and by legal counsel, so just so you know, legal counsel didn't make any changes. Our town clerk was fine. And speaking to our town clerk, Beth Sloan, about it, you know, I had originally said we could make electronic posting the exclusive means, and she kind of had a coronary about it, and said she had just been to a town clerk's conference where they had talked about towns that had gone to only posting electronically, and that there were some pitfalls for the unwary, which I had not thought of. For instance, if the server goes down for more than 6 hours, you have to cancel all of the meetings, because that was the only way that you posted the meetings. I mean, these are the rules. It's like
I know.
you get hung up in all these crazy things. So I said, okay, so we'll keep having people post the meetings the way that they've been doing, which is hard copy through Beth. She timestamps it. The dinosaur comes and gets it, and we put it on the, stone tablet out in front, and, chisel it in. And then, as a secondary policy that this board is implementing, and I tried to give people a little, we can discuss the date if people think it's too soon, August 1st, we're asking people, update your little page on the website and post it electronically. And I think, it always drove me crazy that I'd have to drive down to town hall and look at this crazy corkboard. I mean, I know, like, it's the best people could do under the circumstances, but we can do better. And I
Well,
think,
that's the legal requirement.
That's
to
the
put it
legal
out there.
requirement, yes.
Then we should be working on disseminating it out onto social
Yes.
media platforms,
Yes.
et cetera, not just the website.
No, I agree.
Because people
Yep.
don't go to websites.
But I will say Scott Davis, and we will have to have him, he's our volunteer for Facebook.
Okay.
And he's done great things. We haven't necessarily been a good partner about giving
Right.
him things to put out there, but he had a lot of really great ideas. He had emailed me, and I would like to have him come and speak to us, along with Adam Valachovic, about Twitter and what we could put out there, or, I think Twitter, not Instagram. Yeah, but I think part of why it hasn't been being put on Facebook is he isn't getting the material to put out on
Right, no,
Facebook.
I know that.
So he said that if we can open up the lines of communication and do a better job about consistently giving him things to put on Facebook, he would be more than glad to do that. As I said, I am planning on having him hopefully come sometime in July or August, but, I don't want to turn these meetings into like 4-hour meetings. I'm trying to get a lot done. So did anybody have any concerns
Yes.
with this policy?
Yes, I have a
Okay.
concern.
Yes,
The last sentence is absolutely tortured.
okay.
Remains in place, period. Delete and capitalize failure to post.
Okay,
Please, 'cause
all right,
that sentence just drives me crazy.
Well, legal counsel was fine with it, Mrs. Rain,
I understand
but
that,
if you would
legal
like to have
concert
that
is not a-
changed.
their
we
grammar
can-
is terrible.
We can certainly do that. And this would go under the no good deed goes unpunished,
That's right.
heading. I am fine with that change. Did anybody else have any other concerns?
that's a capital
Just a
F.
period, and then that starts no
That I'm,
sense. Delete
the
and.
fact that you have the same requirements, the 48 hours for
Yes.
putting it, at the town clerk and to post it, it seems like just one additional small step that isn't saying, okay, we want it within 36 hours or 50 hours or whatever. So we're not changing the requirement. You have to do the same document, just put it in two places.
That's really where I was going with it, and I kind of thought, like, I just want people to get into the good habit of saying, okay, I gave it to Beth, now I just gotta put it up on the website, it's like a 1-2. And that's why I thought, well, we'll just keep 48 hours, and that's, any other, yes, Mr. Weeks?
So just the first sentence here is,
Well, you guys are harsh tonight.
yeah, no,
Okay.
it's not a grammar thing, it's just my curiosity. So it says, all public bodies in the town of Hanson will be required to post their meetings and agendas. So who specifically is doing this?
All public bodies would include, basically, any elected or appointed board or committee.
Right, but who's literally going to be doing it?
That's up to them. So they each have admins or secretaries or, to whom it may concern.
So are we gonna put this out to them and let them know that they are now in charge of
Yes,
running
so
their own?
here's what my thought process was. If we adopt this, as tweaked, we'll tweak it according to the vote. And then we will send it out, to all board chairs and committees, and we'll say, here's the requirement effective August 1st. And whoever your administrative person is that handles your minutes and all that, or whoever you really want to, it can really be, whoever's posting your minutes now, your meetings now, probably is just gonna do this piece.
And we're okay with, this is just me being naive, I don't know if.
Yeah, no.
So there's a bunch of people that already have access to the town website that can alter this?
Yes, there's a.
All the committees do?
Each committee has somebody designated who can have access to their committee page. It's a need-to-know basis, it's very confined.
Okay.
And I have to say, there's even more rigor now that we've got Steve as our IT person around the walls. So, for instance, I can't go AWOL and say, I'm updating that conservation website, I don't have access to it. Only Frank and Lon would have access to, and perhaps Mr. Clemens, but that, I don't know. And for instance, ours would be Lucia and Lisa. I don't have access to update. It's very prescribed who has access. Yeah, we're not opening up the Wild West here on this.
Okay, because I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about, just in my own narrow lens, is Capital Improvement Committee, we're gonna have like all new people on there.
Yes.
I don't know anybody that's ever had access to the website, so this is gonna be brand-new territory for that. And because it's always kind of in flux, a chair, a vice chair would need that, or secretary might need that in case a chair is
Well,
not.
now, in that case, it may be a case, I just don't want to open up the floodgates on this.
Well, that's the only reason why I'm talking
Especially
about
given
it.
our last discussion about
Right.
the need for more people in the select board office. That may be a case where we might be able to say, the person, our admin and select board can post generally to the website, not to the specific page, but to the
Okay,
website.
I'm just looking at it from a
Yeah.
security
Yeah,
standpoint.
we'll definitely have some kinks that have to be worked out because
Yeah.
it's new.
Well, yeah,
So-
that's the only reason I'm raising it, and does it become more work inadvertently for you? Because now I'm thinking if you have a reorganization, the ZBA, for example, just to use them just from last week when they were talking about how they had reorgs because of technicalities.
Yeah.
If that's the case, that happens, then you're gonna have to, or Steve is gonna have to kind of keep track of who has access, who doesn't have access.
Well, Virginia would be posting for them.
I'm just using
Yeah.
them, I'm
Yeah,
using
well,
their
so I'm saying-
reorganization as an
I
example.
think your
so-
better example is not like a person who has a dedicated department. Your capital improvement is a
Capital-
better
yeah.
example. Yeah, because you don't have dedicated staff.
Right, so it's stuff like that, or ad hoc committees, things along those lines. I'm just thinking about it from, is it gonna become a headache? Because I'm just thinking, is this an electronic version of someone taking my key fob, for example, walking in
Oh,
and just
God. You need therapy
doing what they gotta
over
do?
that.
I do,
You need
I have
therapy.
PTSD
Yep.
from that experience.
Mr. Tarvis.
Dr. Tarvis, 491 East Washington Street. I won't name which committee, but one of the ones that I sit on. The website hasn't been updated, and the town's website has had no minutes or agendas posted since 2017. And it's an active board that does actively meet.
Yes.
So how would like a board like that proceed, where I have a feeling that nobody on that board has had access to that website in years?
So,
They did
yeah.
consistently post in 2017, and then there's been nothing ever since.
I think, Mrs. Rain mentioned it, I think we universally, all agree, although we haven't discussed it in great length, the website needs help. The website, ideally, you should be able to go on any committee, anything, and see all the minutes, all the agendas, anything your little heart desires. It should just all be right there and pretty easily, searchable. That is not the case. It's very cobbled together, it's inconsistent, you need a decoder ring sometimes to figure out where things, it's not intuitive, like sometimes you're like, why is that under this category instead of this category? So I'm sure that this will highlight the inadequacies of our website and some of our other underlying functions. But I don't think that should prevent us from requiring it and implementing it. And I think as those things come up, we'll address them.
Do we have somebody in the wings? One of the things that we did was we went to the high school, the tech department, and we got, some of these kids, they're wonders.
We do, so Lisa does have some connections through Bridgewater State University that
Okay.
we've leveraged before, and we might be able to. We also can talk to Steve Moberg about what his thoughts are, so we definitely need to have
Yeah,
more
yeah.
conversation. So if you guys want to kick it out till September 1st, and then we could have more conversations,
should
I'm
do
totally
that.
fine with
Yeah,
that.
I think we
Okay,
should
because
do
I
that.
think it's still moving the ball forward,
Yeah.
so.
For me, I think the policy's fine, it's just a matter of access, and I just don't want
Yep.
somebody doing something on the
Right. No.
website or losing track of, because, again, I'm just using this as an example, but, the whole reason why Steve did the things with the key fobs was because too many people had access. We had a lot of people that were chairs that were just kind of using stuff from what he was saying. And if that's the case, is this just a different iteration of that we're gonna come back to 12 months from now?
No, not at all. He's got, given very specific, access to people. He's already locked
So
this
that
down. Yeah.
there's a key fob issue?
There used to be.
Okay,
Yeah, it used to be.
I need to know.
He literally does need therapy over this, and I don't
I mean,
blame him.
it was a real issue.
I don't blame him, because it was a strange thing where he didn't even, his key fob, did you even have one?
No.
No, he was a select person, he was supposed to have a key fob, he never got a key fob, and then Steve Molberg happened to mention at one of our meetings that somebody was wandering aimlessly using Joe's key fob.
And he didn't
which
even have it.
He didn't even have it. So it raised all kinds of security concerns, not to mention whoever was doing whatever they might have been doing was doing it in Joe's name.
Right.
So it's just a nightmare. I'm sorry to re-trigger you.
No, that was, honestly, that wasn't even the trigger, but
Okay.
that was a serious issue. But I think the other thing, it was just, I think he started off the conversation by saying that there were people that used to have a key to the
Yes.
town hall that were
Yes.
chairs. And just by virtue of them being a chair for X amount of years, and it was just kind of like commonplace.
Yes.
That it was impossible to track it. And then the key fob thing came
key
up.
fob
That's not the focus
This
of what I'm trying to
probably
say.
is going
Yeah.
to have some of that same
That's what I'm
conversation
getting
about
at,
how do
yeah.
we compartmentalize and give people very specific, so I think we'll push it out to an effective date of September 1st. We'll plan on having Steve come and talk to us about, what his thoughts are,
Yes.
on it, and we'll make the changes that, Mrs. Rain suggested. So with that,
Yes.
I
Good.
will entertain a motion to adopt this policy.
I move to adopt this policy.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, fantastic. That took way longer than I thought it would, but, that's okay, we're doing well, and the room is starting to cool down.
Well, the sun's gone down.
Yes.
Going down.
Similarly, I would like to take credit for this, but I really can't. I just went out and I said, what other towns have got liaisons? What do the liaisons do? What have we talked about a liaison doing? And I just thought it was important for us to all make sure that we have a common understanding of what this position is, because although we've had, Mr. Hickey as the senior center liaison, and at points we've had, I'd say, uneven execution of having liaisons. Like, I know prior boards had like a police liaison, but not a liaison to any other department. I never could quite conceive of why all of that happened. We're spreading it out and really having a liaison for nearly every department or committee, and there may be ones that have fallen through the cracks, and if so, we'll address those and get them assigned. But I thought, I just want the people who are getting the liaisons assigned to them and the liaisons themselves to understand what this is about, and that it's not, we're not trying to add another member to a committee. We're not trying to, change the trajectory of whatever the committee or department or whatever that you're liaison to. You're not the exclusive person for the you're not speaking for the select board, you're just a representative, for the select board, because we act in concert together, all 5 of us. So with that, I think the rest of it is kind of self-explanatory. Did anybody have anything that gave them pause, or that they thought should be changed, and?
No, it all looks
Was
good.
grammatically, was it okay? Mrs.
Grammatically, it's
Ray?
fine.
Okay. So what I thought we'd do with this, once we accept it, is, have, Lucia and Lisa send the liaison job description out, along with the list of the liaison positions that we had agreed upon at the last meeting, and just kind of put people on notice. I had already, had conversations with various boards and, and department heads, so most people have got a sense of it. So I will entertain a motion to, accept the job description for the Town of Hanson Select Board, liaison.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, fantastic. All in favor? All right, we are chugging along.
Can I just ask a quick question, or just another?
Please, feel free.
Where do these, policies go?
They go into the policy file.
Because I'm just,
Good answer.
because if I just do this, I guess it's filed, but like, if I wanted to look that up.
No, in all honesty, it should be on our town website.
Yeah.
There are policies and procedures that we should have. Do we have all of them on there? Absolutely not.
Okay, because I was thinking like, where is the electronics policy actually
This one
gonna
is,
live? Where is this
I'm
gonna
gonna
live?
ask the town clerk if she'll post it on her website, and then, it would be on the select board. Both of these would be things that we've adopted, so it should be on our page.
Are we certain that these are, I know we talked about it last meeting, but that's,
I think we had more than that, though.
I thought
We
we
definitely
too.
did. We had community preservation,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
had a whole bunch more. So
Yeah.
we'll go back over that list before we, send it out, because we had quite a few more,
Right.
on there. And I had
Sorry,
notes.
Madam Chair.
Yes, no,
There
feel
should be
free.
a hard copy, Joe, upstairs. I've seen it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I'm just wondering,
bylaws.
like, you know,
On,
the
policies
the
and
policies, yeah,
procedures.
Yeah,
You
no,
know-
there is. I was joking about that, but.
yeah, no, I'm sure they go somewhere. I'm just kind of curious, you know, do we incorporate this in like we would the bylaws where we say like section 1B, or does this
That's
just kind of like
probably
sit?
not a bad idea to do.
You should have
yeah.
bylaws, and then those the overarching, and then
Yes.
the policies and the
Yes.
specifics. The policies are a little bit easier to change than the bylaws.
Yes.
Right, no, naturally. I'm just kind of curious if, you know,
So.
maybe it's a different.
Well, so for the, electronic posting, I originally was proposing that as a bylaw, and Kate, Fairhoff, pushed back on me and said, I don't think we should make it a bylaw, you can just make it a policy. So that's why we ended up where we
All
are
right,
with
so
No,
I'm
it's fine. I
gonna
think-
say, I have to be, only because I've gone through this in a different area. This is more of an overarching bylaw to me than it is a policy. A policy would be the 48 hours, or you know what I mean? The specifics that can be changed, but
Well, okay, but,
you're making this, I think this is an important,
so you're
backbone.
saying you think we should make this a bylaw?
that I do.
Well, that was where I went
I
with it
do.
originally, so I don't have a problem with it.
I do.
I think Kate was sort of saying, like, don't kill any
You
ant
don't
with
wanna
the
have too many
cannon. Yeah,
bylaws, cause it
yeah.
gets way too
It
complicated.
does,
I
and
get
honestly,
that.
you can't, sometimes you can't legislate common sense.
I know.
But, you know, but, yes.
Policies and
we-
procedures are bendable, but bylaws, you can't, you
Exactly.
can't.
You
So I
can't bend
think my personal opinion is, if we roll this out in September, we see how it actually, we roll the wrinkles out
Okay.
in
Okay.
October town meeting,
Good
and then after that,
And
if you
then
wanna
make
make
it-
it a bylaw,
yes.
roll the wrinkles out, do it in May.
It's a good
I think
idea.
that's very reasonable.
Yep.
Yeah, everybody's okay with that? Okay, great, so, I lost track of whether we voted to adopt that or not.
I think we did.
Okay, great. Okay, we really have covered quite a bit of territory. Let me make sure we've gotten everything. Job description. Did anybody have any, committee updates? Any burning need to give us a committee update?
No update per se, but I did speak to both, the police chief today and the highway.
Okay, great.
I-
And,
reached out to
let
both
me
of them.
ask you this, do we need to help you get in touch with Kenny to kind of do that, you know, handoff, Mr. Mitchell, to do that handoff of what he knew about highway, and so that you can pick up that ball and run
Yeah,
with
because
it?
I found out, I didn't realize that had kind of like all dissolved,
It
floated away.
It died a very slow and painful death, I think. And so you're gonna be, you know,
Starting from square
resuscitating,
one,
you're gonna
yeah.
be
I know.
administering CPR and, you know,
I think we have to make a new monster.
yes. Okay, so, Ms. Green, I'm wondering if that's something our office could help, to get Mr. Mitchell in touch with Mrs. Rain, so she's just got that information, and there's like that handoff to her, so that she can pick up that, that ball and go with it.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I don't have any committee updates. I'm meeting with the Economic Development Committee, on Tuesday, the 5th of July, and I should have something after that. Did you have anything? Anybody else have anything? Okay,
Oh,
yes.
Parks and Fields.
I'd love to hear.
They have started the process for Lower Robinson, to turn that into a softball field.
Oh,
So, you know, it'll be a permanent, girls softball field,
no, that's the one near the American.
Legion, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, the lower one.
Okay,
You know, they'll get rid of the mound in the infield, so that will become infield grass, I should say, so that will
Not for nothing,
become
but we never had girls softball fields, we had to play in
that's because you
boys.
didn't have Mr. Hickey
I-
advocating,
obviously.
advocating for the
Yeah,
girls,
so-
yeah.
They will be two in town, and they're doing a great job, you know, getting the girls, playing again in practice time and all of that. As far as the senior center, the men's group, meets on Wednesday mornings, which would be tomorrow morning. I believe at some point there was a waiting list, but there are some open chairs, so.
Oh, that's good to know.
Anybody that, any guys that want to come down. Leah has her own thing going up the other end.
Yes.
And that's it.
And it's a great group, right, Jim? I mean, it's just like a get together, talk, and, do your thing. Which is, I think, not always in a lot of guys' comfort zones, but I think they facilitate it so it's comfortable for people.
It's really, it's an excellent group. I've been there many times myself. It's a tight-knit group. It's enjoyable, to be quite honest. I love listening to them and some of the stories. It's just amazing.
Yeah. There's some good eggs in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I do have to say, at the last meeting, I really want to thank everybody for stepping up on the liaisons and the committees. I know it's a lot of commitments. I thank the 2 new members for just jumping right in head first. Maybe you don't know any better, but I appreciate it anyway. And so I'm feeling very, very good about the engagement level of the committee.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Did we skip number 3?
What is it? Number 2 and 3.
Yeah, 2 and 3.
Thank you for pointing that out. Mr. DeFrayis is going to come and visit us, I think what meeting was it, the July 26th meeting? 19th, okay. Yes, he wanted a little bit more time to prepare, and I really thought we had a heavy agenda anyway,
No, that's
so I
fine.
thought, you know what, we'll just kind of parse that out.
Okay.
I will move on to one-day licenses, and I will entertain a motion to approve the liquor licenses as printed in our agenda.
Motion.
Okay?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And it was with great joy that we have I probably shouldn't taint the audience, the appointment of Patricia Wheeler to the Capital Improvement Committee. I'm happy to report that Mr. Weeks, your fondest wishes are starting to come true, and we are actually starting to get people applying, and in fact, tonight, Mr. Tarvis told me of another person who would be interested in applying. So I believe, we have Mr. Tarvis, we have you, we have Mr. Sweezy, we have Ed Heel, and then tonight we will, if the board appoints and so moves, we will have Patricia Wheeler. So that will be 6, and then that will leave us 7, so we do have one more opening. And then you will no longer have to read that we have openings, and more importantly, you will have
Well, we
critical
still have
mass.
the bylaws.
Well, you won't have to, you
So-
won't have to move about a capital improvement
It
yet.
didn't escape me that that was the case, and I did want to say that, first of all, thank you, thank everybody, because, honestly, this is a great moment, because I've been the first committee I ever was on here, and I've stayed on it the entire time, to see, the community come together and solve this problem in a really, fast and efficient way. For something that is, the Capital Improvement Committee, I can't underscore enough, is so important to municipal government and being able to do that, and it's incredibly underrated into how important it is. But to have everybody come together and solve this problem really means a lot. So thank you for everything that you've all done to advocate, honestly, to make this happen. Because I was really getting concerned that, we weren't gonna be able to meet our obligations, so.
Well, honestly, Mr. Weeks, I think it's a classic case, and this is like our poster child for lack of us communicating to people that we needed help. I know we were reading it on the minutes, but I think until you really said, look, I gotta break this down, it's me and Ken Sweezy, and we're well-intentioned, but we can't operate. I think until you communicated that, so I think it's just a lesson for us to ask as early as possible when we need help. With that said, did anybody have any questions? We have Ms. Wheeler in the audience. I didn't know did you want to come up and say a few words? I mean, I don't want to torture you if you.
I guess the one thing that I would just say is that, I decided to pull papers to run for the select board. At the same time, I got a job offer that I couldn't refuse. Both just wouldn't have been effective for either way. So I decided to go with the job. No offense to anybody on the board. But what I can see, my premise for running was that it's going to be run like a business. And I can see that happening with the new members and everybody here. And it's starting to go that way, which is something that I'm used to. I have a huge background in performance improvement, and risk management, and I would love to, I've had an interest in politics for the last couple of years, as you know, I'm here every single weekend, every single meeting sitting in this chair. So I definitely would like to start getting my feet right into politics here.
All right, well, we appreciate you stepping up to fill that position. Did anybody have any questions?
Well, he's got my typical one, is just any conflicts that we need to know about or anything that,
I'm a compliance officer, so I can say 100% no.
yeah, all right.
Shoot any of your eyes, you can be the first to.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Honestly, thank you for answering the call and doing this. It really, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, I will entertain a motion to appoint Patricia Wheeler to the Capital Improvement Committee for a 3-year term.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor? All right, and thanks again, and you'll receive a letter from Lucia, our office, giving you the details. With that, Ms. Green, I will turn it over to you for the town administrator report.
Yes, Madam Chair, like Chair, members of the board. So this morning, I was lucky enough to be handed our 2 final CARES Act checks by Sandra Wright of the Plymouth County Commissioners. The first check was in the amount of $64,540.89. Second check was $29,215.68. Both of the checks represent expenditures from the South Shore Regional Technical High School, Whitman Hanson Regional High School, and then various other expenditures COVID-related. So that officially closed out the Town of Hanson's CARES Act expenditures and reimbursements.
Ms. Green, I'm sorry, so while we're on COVID-related relief from the government, can we pend at some future meeting to talk about ARPA money and how we're going to spend ARPA money?
Yes.
Because it's a large amount of money, and it does have the potential to, if used the right way, to really make a big difference.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, sorry, continue.
Oh,
please.
So I know a few weeks back, I had mentioned when the information on the fireworks site came about with the movement of Hanson now being impacted, and Tetra Tech was going to begin cleanup operations within the town of Hanson. We had talked about technical assistance to help us with a consultant. So I was not able to attend the webinar, but I did review the technical assistance grant information on the waste site cleanup with the Mass DEP. That application window opens July 15th. So Tracy Costa, she did attend the webinar on our behalf, and she'll be helping me out fill out the application. But we can get up to $20,000 to bring on a consultant. Tracy Costa is a very experienced LSP in environmental, and she would be a great help to us in our conservation and health with just consultation on helping us navigate through this complex fireworks site. Also, too, I just wanted to wish everybody a happy 4th of July holiday, which is coming up. Please be safe with fireworks, things like that. Remind everybody the kids are now out of school for summer vacation. Be mindful if you're driving. And also, too, I know October seems far away, but it's really not. Plans are moving fast, quickly to, with our Great Pumpkin Classic Car Show. This will be the second one that we're holding, well, my 4th, but the second one, we're moving it to the high school. We had it at the McQuon this past October, and we actually ran out of room when we had close to 200 cars show up. So we're going to be having it at the Whitman Hanson High School, where we can fit up to 300 cars. So plans are in the works for that. A lot of work goes into it, a lot of plans, but it's a lot of fun. And I'm working on all those special cars to get them there. So I will have flyers available that I'll hand to everybody, and we're just going to get the word out there on this great car show because a lot of people look forward to it. So that's my town administrator report for today.
All right, any questions for Ms. Green? Okay, with that, we will be moving to executive session.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I just,
yes.
if we could get an official vote on, the energy, was number 4 on the agenda.
We did.
I actually did not vote,
Oh, you didn't vote?
no.
You want us to revote?
Right, we didn't know if you were abstaining or just
Okay.
not voting.
Yeah, I'm gonna vote no, but, and we've changed votes before, our next meeting isn't for another 3 weeks.
Right.
I would like to get the board's permission just to look into this a little further. And it's not about ending the contracts at the same time. It's more about saving money. Because when, last January, we went with the 28-month, which saved us a ton of money. And the one thing, and I'm trying to wrap my head around it, is Bob had said that it was $24,000 because it's a 2-cent difference, but yet in the first 6 months of the contract that we signed in January, we've only saved $3,200, but yet there's a penny difference. That should be $6,000.
I'm all for having conversations. I just think that the only way that that works is if, tell me if I'm wrong on this, because we have to read back the vote, because if we gave you permission to.
We did.
We did.
Yeah, to execute the contract.
Yeah.
If you do that now, then there's nothing we can do. So we have to do it one of two ways, either delay that so it doesn't happen now, or you do, I think this is an open meeting law, you do a motion to reconsider,
Yes.
and then you have to vote on that, so.
So we could do a motion to, withdraw the vote on that subject, on that item. And then once the vote's that's withdrawn, then we can you make a new motion.
So is our date August 1st? This has to be decided by then?
Yeah. I think it's less messy, because I'm pretty sure, I'm just going off of memory right now.
Our current
so-
contract with the electricity expires December.
Yes.
December,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so I,
But he gave us available contract rates today.
Right.
Are those gonna be viable in December? They're not. They're
Well,
gonna
no,
go up.
you're not suggesting we wait till December?
No, 3
Okay,
weeks.
yeah.
Just 3 weeks.
Yeah.
yeah, I think just from a less messy perspective, we just have you hold off on the contract if the board is inclined to give you 3 weeks to do this, and then, because I'm almost positive, just so it's not, an incorrect vote, I think we have to do a motion to reconsider.
We do,
That
we
has
do.
to pass, and then
Yeah.
you have to do a motion to withdraw. I think
Yes.
it's a 2-step
We
process,
do.
not just simply.
But I'm just trying to understand, what is our objective in having you go? So we have this gentleman who we hire, who's an expert in this, who's made the presentation to us, and we voted. What's your objective in revisiting this?
My objective would be
And
to-
how would you revisit it, and with whom?
I would talk to Bob, because if you remember, when we talked about this in January, and I was going through all these figures and came up with the 70 point, I think I said 70.9. And he came back to Lisa's cell phone before the meeting was over.
yes.
And told us 70.8,
Yes.
or whatever it was. I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
I'm just, what bothers me is, we're gonna end a contract where we're going to go through 3 summers. And this is all off the top of my head right now, where they're saying the summer is the lightest months. And right down here, he has August through October, with a projected rate of the 21.1 cents, which is typically the cheapest time of year. And we're gonna go through that cheapest time of year 3 times, where I don't know why the reason it's up so high right now. I could guess. But for whatever reason, back in January, what's changed in 6 months?
All right, so, I didn't hear him say we had to, he actually didn't give us a deadline by
No, he
which we
didn't.
had to
No,
tell him.
he didn't give us a
Okay,
deadline.
so I believe the way that this works is the person who made the motion originally, which I do not know, but Lucia, hopefully you do, has to vote to reconsider the
I
motion.
think technically, this is just technicality, and I could 100% be wrong. It's anybody that voted it affirmatively.
it's the person who-
And then the person that did it has to withdraw their motion once the motion to reconsider
Okay,
is
you're
done.
right.
So I just, that's why I think it's just easier, honestly, so we get it right, is that we just delay. Because he always said, all I remember him saying is he was gonna reach out to you tomorrow. I don't think he said you needed to sign it tomorrow.
Right.
So we can make a motion to reconsider at any time. So I'd just say, just delay
Well,
it.
that's true. We didn't actually say she has to enter into the
Right,
contract
just
tomorrow.
keep it clean.
So I think, okay, I didn't get what you were saying at
Yeah.
first, I'm sorry. The
No, it's
heat's
fine.
kind of rattling my brain, but,
Mine too.
so I think you can still do what you want to do. We can still have the motion stay, and we said we were going to have her enter into a contract for the 36 months, but we didn't say when.
Okay.
So, so I think if we just agree that we're telling her to delay, until our next meeting, at which point hopefully you would have been able to contact him.
Yeah.
And then, you know, if you have different information, then we'll take it back up for vote.
Yeah, I mean, I just want, 10 minutes of the board's time. I mean, if, literally, if we save $32,000 because of a text message that came in 45 minutes later, which I still think that amount is wrong, but that's besides the point.
No, I appreciate
And-
you being willing to do it and taking the lead on it and having the conversation. We've got nothing to lose, right?
Agree. Yeah, I
So-
don't think there's anything. to
Okay,
lose.
all
Okay,
right,
cool.
great, thanks. Okay, I was.
Sorry.
That's okay. We are moving to executive session in accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Exception 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, to wit, 62 Ocean Avenue. Exception 5, to investigate charges of criminal misconduct or to consider the filing of a criminal complaint, to wit, Camp Kiwanee vandalism. I will entertain a motion,
So moved.
Second.
okay, and roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
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 Okay, all right.